Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of today's podcast. The current topic for today is going to be about mental sanity and playing League with efficiency. Today, I am here with my two friends, Keetchie from the last episode, and a new face, Guppy. And being the newcomer, Guppy, why don't you give us a quick introduction to yourself and kind of who you are as a player?
Well, fair enough. My name's Zach, or Guppy. I am the current captain of the University of Wyoming League team. I average about high diamond, diamond 2, diamond 1 in both bot lane and support.
Cool. Awesome. And then, Aiden, just quickly reintroduce yourself for those who didn't watch the last episode.
Yeah, I'm the same guy as last time. I'm the captain for League of Legends at Colorado State and the vice president of all the esports at Colorado State. And I play against Guppy in the Mountain West Conference a lot of the time, but I'm also a bot laner, peaked Grandmaster 500 LP, and so far in season, what are we in, 12? Hovering somewhere around mid-master, hopefully working my way back up towards Grandmaster and above soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for the quick introduction. And without further ado, I think we should just get into this episode, shall we? So, again, topic is mental sanity and playing with efficiency. And for my first question, I'd like to ask you guys, what upsets you the most from a random player? What can someone do to really, really just like ruin your guys' experience playing League? Guppy, why don't you start?
All right. So for me, the thing that upsets me the most is when people are on an alt account and their one trick gets banned. Because what happens is they're on an alt account, so they automatically don't care about the game and they'll just pick a random champion and for fun it. I actually ran into this earlier today. I had a top laner whose one trick was banned on his alt account, and he literally picked AP Twitch Chop and just started ganking lanes randomly. Uh, he was like 0-6 at 5 minutes, and that was super fun. I try to like think about the best in people in solo queue games. I try to keep my mentality a little high, but that's just the one thing that gets to me is just alt accounts that don't care.
Really?
And that it's a problem in all ranks, I know. But it seems that in Diamond, it's mostly just Masters people who are just unbelievably toxic.
Wow. It's weird because I don't check op.gg that much when I queue. So like I don't really ever even notice when people in champ select they're just, not playing their one trick or something. So I don't know. It's interesting though. I didn't think that's what you would say at all. All
I
right.
oh sorry. I actually used to do OPGG a lot, and I had to remove it because I would just go into games already like pre-annoyed or pre-tilted when the game hadn't even started yet, just because like I would see my teammates win rate and then picking a champion that never played before, and it's not worth it. I promise you. If you guys are using any overlay system, it's not worth it. You just go into the game tilted.
I actually second that. What do you think, Aiden?
Yeah, I think overlay systems are like the biggest noob bait of all time, and if you have one, you should literally uninstall it today. But I can talk more about that later. But what tilts me the most from players, because it happens like in an insanely large percentage of games, is what I just call like ego playing. So like you're like 4-0 or something, and you have like 1,000 gold shutdown now or whatever. Like the game is revolved around you being strong, and then for no reason you just gain an ego about how strong you are and take like a 1v2 that doesn't have to happen, and then you lose your bounty, and now the game is like almost impossible to win because the bounty system is so broken that dying once with a bounty like puts the enemy in a favorable position. It just pisses me off so much because there's literally no reason for it. And the more and more I play competitive League, like the more and more I hate solo queue, because in comp, if your mid laner is 4-0, you guys won the game. Like, okay, we're gonna play for this guy, we're gonna work through this guy, like he's not gonna make a stupid play. But in solo queue, all that strategy is completely removed, and you literally have to like pray that your mid laner isn't an ego freak and just plays the game correctly. And then conversely, like when I'm, playing ADC and I'm, fed, let's say I'm like 6-0 or something, like my thought process is I'm going to play safe. Like I'm going to use my flash defensively, like only because I'm worth a ton of gold and things like that. And so it's just frustrating to see other people not have that same mentality. And it's not like, oh, it's a lower rank, so like, maybe they just made a mistake, because that'll happen. Like, no, it's like master, GM, like challenger. Like, they know what they're doing. Just like stop trying to be the hero of every solo queue game and just play correctly for once in your life. It really, really bothers me, because every single game that this happens. Enemy team too. Enemy team gets fed, randomly dies me for no reason. Now I got 2,000 gold and we win. It's stupid. Like, it shouldn't be in the game like that.
No, I completely agree. And like, it's just so difficult because you don't have any control over it either. And like, that shit will happen, and the game is just out of your control. So,
I mean, that's why people like Champions Queue, right? Because you're not going to do that in Champions Queue. Like, yeah.
Well, first off, right, I actually want to ask a question about Champions Queue, but what is Champions Queue? Like, can someone explain it? Just because, like, I honestly, like, I know of it, but like, I actually would like a quick explanation.
Yeah, Champions Queue is a private server hosted in LA, so it's primarily made for pros, so that they can have low ping rather than the Chicago server. And anyone that is like currently a pro, was formerly a pro, or is a semi-pro, so it's like some collegiate teams that are like top 8 or top 4, all the amateur teams, academy teams, stuff like that. It's a private Discord server where it opens up like every day, and you can basically like join lobbies, and it's like a private MMR LP system that Riot hosts, so it's completely separate from solo queue, but it's a similar ladder type system, and the top players, you know, get notoriety, but they also get cash prizes. So it's basically like, I want to say like really competitive flex queue, because like you are always in like a 5 stack, but it's randomized like solo queue, if that makes sense. But like you're in comms working like a team, so it's like a solo queue flex queue hybrid that's meant for, you know, really competitive players.
Wow. And my question then after that is, how do you guys think that's going to impact like the rest of the ladder? Is when those people are on Champions Queue, and the people who aren't in Champions Queue are still playing League at like Masters or GM or whatever the cutoff is, right? How do you guys think that'll affect high elo?
So correct me if I'm wrong, Keetchie, but for non-collegiate players, they changed it to Grandmasters Plus, right?
Yeah, it's GM plus, but you also have to be like accepted in. So like once you hit Grandmaster, you're not invited to the server. There's like an application and stuff.
Wow.
One thing I will say is that I don't know for the vast 99% of the NA server, I don't think it's going to make any difference in the world. I think that for like Grandmasters Plus, it's going to make some difference, but I believe it's only open for a certain amount of time every day. Like, it's not like you can just Champions queue 24/7. I'm pretty sure it's like it opens at 6 MST or something like that and lasts for a couple hours. And so, like, if you really are worried about the games being like less try-hardy in solo queue, I'm pretty sure you just could, if you really wanted to, just not play during the time it's open.
Yeah, I agree with Guppy. I don't think it will actually matter too much. I'm sure there'll be a small amount of maybe rank inflation, as like some challengers don't play, they drop out, and you know, some GMs fill the slot. But I think for the majority, it won't really impact solo queue too much. I think it will just make people realize how much worse solo queue is in comparison to any other game mode. And I think people are already seeing that. Like Champions Queue players are saying like, there is no reason for me to play solo queue. This sucks in comparison.
So what do you guys think makes Champions Queue so much better than solo queue? Like, what do you think makes Champions Queue so much less toxic and tilting?
In my opinion, it's for two reasons. I think the first one is that it's mostly people who like are pro players. Like their life is getting their best they can at League. And I think the second reason is that it's just guaranteed that you're not going to get a toxic elo inflated mid laner.
I would say that it's certainly less toxic, but it might be more tilting in some degrees in a different way. Like in solo queue, you know, you have your two players that hate each other typing, and like that's tilting and that sucks. You're not going to get that in Champions queue, but I've already heard, you know, some people don't want to join voice comms in Champion queue. And so like that's really tilting, because now the queue is for more than LP, right? It's for money, it's for notoriety, maybe you get scouted if you're not already a pro. So I think it's tilting in a different way, but it certainly would be less toxic, right? Because it's being monitored. So I would love to have the entirety of Masters Plus, or at the very least GM Plus, because Masters is getting bigger and bigger, every day, to be actively monitored like that, and you just instantly ban people that are toxic. I would do anything for that. That'd be great.
So what do you guys think is the root of the toxicity outside of Champions Queue? So like in normal solo queue, right? The game is pretty damn frustrating to play. Like it's hard, right? There's just so many factors that come into it where it makes queuing continuously stressful and obnoxious. What do you guys think some of those factors are?
There is literally no punishment, period. Outside of like typing a hard slur, there is no way you get punished for doing anything wrong, ever. I don't think I have ever seen someone like intentionally ruin a game and then get banned for it. It doesn't happen. Especially because everyone knows who they are. Like, you'll get in lobbies, like, in higher ranks, and everyone knows the guy that's, like, going to intentionally ruin the game. Like, everyone knows. And you see him week after week after week after week. Like, he's not going anywhere. Why? That's one of the biggest issues, in my opinion.
What do you think about that, Guppy?
No, I would certainly agree. It's kind of unbelievable to think, because like I cannot remember the last time I've gotten a genuine instant feedback report. And I have gotten some crazy people on my team. Like whether it's people saying not necessarily slurs, but certainly incentivizing things, or people going like 0-16 on Twitch top. Like no matter what it is, I agree with Keetchie. People just aren't worried about the repercussions of their actions anymore.
I mean, oh, I'm sorry, Caleb. I didn't mean to cut you off. A perfect example of this is there's another game I play called Legion TD. It's not too similar to League, but it's like a fun, competitive multiplayer game. And I play it with a friend of mine like all the time. And sometimes like we'll just type like stupid things, not that are like toxic, but just to be stupid, like just like poking fun at the enemy and things like that. And like I'll go to type something and he'll be like, no, don't say that. Like you'll actually get banned in this game. And it's not what we're saying like isn't actually toxic. It's just like like friendly banter, like haha, like you messed up on this wave and stuff. But it's funny because his first thought process is, oh no, you'll actually get banned in this game. And it's funny for me to think about because I'm like, the reason I'm not typing this is because like there's an actual punishment. Like in League, no one even second guesses all chatting someone, and like it would be nice if people saw there were actual punishments available, and like I think that would legitimately like prevent people from doing stuff, especially when half the big streamers do it too, right? Like I love Tyler 1. I actually like think he's a really, really good player. Like people undersell how good he is at the game, but look at what he types in half his games, right? They die at the 3-minute mark and he types FF15 because he's been playing for 12 hours that day. He doesn't want to play anymore. Like, it really should be punished, but he's immune, right? I think there's a lot of other streamers that are a bigger problem. Like, watch Geronimo for 30 seconds and tell me that guy shouldn't be permanently banned from playing the game. But they are untouchable, and it sets an incentive, or not an incentive, but a message to the community that you can act that way. And I know people are going to watch this and say that I should be banned, and I completely agree. I've typed stuff that absolutely should be banned, and I haven't. And if I got banned a single time, I would never type it again. But you're immune. You can type whatever you want. It's horrible. Like I have disabled chat on my 2 main accounts just to prevent me from typing stuff because like I don't want to feed into that community. But like you can and you get away with it.
Wow. So my question to you, right, is how much of a punishment should people receive? And on top of that, how do you identify what actually needs to be punished?
Chat bans should be handed out much faster. Like, we can talk about like game bans because I mean, if you ban them from ranked, then they go infect normals queue, right? Which, by the way, is not true in high elo. No Masters player is going to say, "Oh, I got banned from ranked. Times to go play norms." No one's doing that. They're going to get on a second account because everyone in Masters has one. But like, chat bans are like actually effective, right? Because if someone's typing stuff that is insane, just dish them out a 10-game chat ban, boom, done, easy. If that doesn't work, give them 50 games, 100 games. Never let them chat again. You have pings, That's a super easy solution right off the bat that fixes that. It doesn't fix griefing, right? Because I understand that like intentionally feeding or like soft inting or whatever the hell you want to call it is hard to detect and hard to like punish. But like for chat, that is an overnight solution. Like if you get enough reports, you are banned from typing. End of story. I don't get why that's even a thought for Riot. Like if you type the N-word, you don't get a chat ban. You get a 2-week game ban. How does that solve anything? Like cool, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to argue that people should be able to type slurs, like they shouldn't. But like why is a game ban the immediate solution there? Because then they just go get on a different account and like, you know, ruin other games. Just give them a chat ban to actually like punish the action that happened. That's my perspective on it, at least. Like make the punishment match the crime.
Huh. Guppy, do you think game bans are actually like impactful at all?
No, I don't think so. I think since Riot is so open about the freedom to have multiple accounts, like it's not against the summoner's code to have another account. Like people, I think people who are in the criteria that are getting these bans are also in the criteria that are going to have 7 accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I was going to say about you, like Keetchie, is you brought up the chat restrictions, like that not administering it more. Isn't it crazy to think it didn't happen in NA, but some other regions, before even trying to implement chat restrictions as a more like used punishment, they just removed all chat from the game completely, right? Like it makes no sense.
Also, like, can you imagine if your entire team is typing and like you want to type back because you disagree with a play and you can't? How frustrated are you? You probably won't type crazy shit in your next game and get banned again, right? Because like you actively are seeing what you're losing. Like if I did something toxic and I lost my ability to ping in game, I would have a mental breakdown and I would never do that thing again because pinging is like integral to being able to play the game. Like it expresses, you know, your like action. And I don't think we should be banning people from pinging. You know, that's absurd. I'm just saying that like if you actively see what you're missing out on, I think it makes it a lot better. Or that account like can't gain LP for 10 games. I don't think it's a great solution because like it messes up with like LP and MMR balancing, but just like something that actively like you can see harm in what you have lost, because a game ban doesn't actually do anything, especially because your MMR doesn't go away. I can decay 1,000 LP. I don't care. My MMR is the same. I'll get plus 50 minus 2 in Diamond. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? That's the perspective that a lot of people have.
It's really interesting, actually, because I don't know. I never even considered that. Most people, I feel like, have alt accounts anything like above plat. Like, most people have an alternate account because it's pretty easy to do, and also we've been playing this game since we were like 14 or something stupid, right? So,
also, Riot makes it where you have to have an alt. If you want to play the league, you literally have to have an alt, because I guarantee that at some point in time, you will be forced to dodge or just get held hostage. Like, there is no one that has played the game and hasn't been held hostage before in Champ Select. Like, it absolutely happens. Or the second you join lobby, 2 people say, oh, it's this guy again, I'm inting. I hate this guy. What? And I have to lose LP for that? Why?
you guys remember the Tribunal?
Vaguely, when I first played, yeah.
Yeah, it was a system where people would... It's kind of like Overwatch and CSGO, where like you would go back and you would review a game, and you would go through the chat logs and administer a punishment based off of what was being said and stuff like that. I think League has gotten to a point where it's like too hard to do that. Like there's too many games that are occurring. But at the same time, a solution like that, or at least something on Riot's end, where they're just actually looking at chat logs, I feel like would be so much more beneficial. What do you guys think?
I don't think there's too many games. Just do the inverse, right? For Master Plus, if 3+ people reported this one player, then we review their game and see if they deserve a punishment, right? Like if only one person reported you, like they're probably just mad at you or something, right? Because people like anger report all the time. But if 3 people report you, hey, then the tribunal looks at it and says, you know, are you deserving of this ban or not? How many games are there where someone gets reported 3 or more times? If it's too many to be reviewed, then maybe Riot needs to start getting some sort of system in place to, you know, help automate this, because like I don't know. I just think it shouldn't be as hard as it is. For soft hinting, I get it. Like, that's hard to monitor. But for chat, why can't we do it like today?
Guppy, do you think
Well,
chat is like the worst thing? Like it's like the thing that causes the most like mental sanity degradation or what?
well,
Or
I
is it
love
everything
chat.
else? Yeah.
I'm a big fan of chat. I'm gonna be honest. Now, I'm a little bit of a toxic gamer. I will also admit that. It to me personally, like if I'm really like if in solo queue on my main account, like I will try to be as calm as I can and I will mute chat and stuff like that. But like in norms, like chat makes the game. Like I played a game yesterday where I was like we were talking in all we were getting destroyed and we were just talking to the enemy team about investing in Bitcoin and mortgages. Just like the most random thing. I love chat. Um I think that I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been chat restricted. I haven't on my main account, which by the way, unbelievably surprising. Uh, I don't know. I would never go to the extremes. Like that's not who I am. But sometimes I do get in that keyboard warrior mood. Anyways, going back to the chat restrictions, we don't need a tribunal. It needs to be a thing where there's banned words again because I'm pretty sure they got rid of that system unless it's a slur.
There's two words you can't type, and outside of those two,
They need to broaden that, and I think there needs to be a chat limit, which in my opinion, not a chat limit, but like if you reach 150 words or 150 messages, chat restricted because you're not saying anything helpful in 150 messages. But the thing about chat restrictions is that you have like 5 messages you can send a game even while chat restricted. Why is everybody not chat restricted all the time, to be honest, in solo queue? Like those 5 messages, you can spread them out across the game to say useful things. Or you can use them all in one quick flame succession and you can't flame the rest of the game. Like there's no reason why chat restrictions shouldn't be unbelievably common.
yeah, I would say like there's two arguments for it for me. I personally am of the side that like you should be able to type literally whatever you want whenever you want and never get punished. I don't care what you say because like I can just mute you. I don't care. But if we're under the assumption that people should be banned for things that they type, which I'm also fine with that argument, then why aren't chat bans more common? Right now, Riot is in this weird middle ground where they are enforcing stuff, but you never actually get banned, and that's what makes me mad. Either say, chat is chat. Type literally whatever you want. We're not punishing chat because you all have mute buttons. Like, you can't be cyberbullied. Hit the mute button. Grow up. Or take the side of, you can't type whatever you want because we're trying to, make a better community and actually give out bans. But pick a side. Don't do what you're doing now, which is effectively nothing. Like Guppy said, it is a miracle that I haven't been chat banned. Like, it is legitimately insane that, like, you can get away with all the stuff that I know that I've said, and I know that other people have said. Like, literally outside of 2 very specific slurs, you cannot get banned. It doesn't happen. It's absurd. Or you can be like half the streamers out there and stream yourself doing it and not get banned.
Huh. So I think we've been talking a lot about, chat and chat logs and stuff like that and how that impacts the negativity and the mentality of players. But I'm curious, what do you guys think actually, like, fundamentally about the game? What do you guys think causes a lot of this frustration? Or do you guys think it's solely just the players and just chat?
No, it's if your top laner dies, the game's harder for you now, right? It's not like a shooter. Like, shooters are a team game, right? But if all 4 of your teammates die, it doesn't impede your ability to kill the enemy, right? Like, I know there's arguments of like, okay, I have to watch multiple angles, or like they can afford rifles and I can't. Like, I understand those arguments, but I'm talking like the difference in like, fighting someone that has a rifle when you have like an SMG or maybe even just like a revolver, right? Versus enemy top lane Camille with Divine Sunderer and Death Stance and you're pre-mythic. Like, the difference in your ability to play the game is way, way different, right? Like, in League, you literally have no ability to win if the enemy is fed enough. While in games like Valorant, sure, it's harder, and like having a bad team will make the game hard, but you don't lose nearly as much autonomy, in my perspective. Like, you can always still get a one-shot headshot. Like, you can still every round at least buy some sort of, like, SMG, or save a round and get a rifle. Like, there's a lot more autonomy and agency over the game in other games than there is in League, or specifically MOBAs. Like, MOBAs are more team dependent than anything else in the world. That's also why people hate supports, right? Supports can do whatever they want and they don't get punished. You don't have to have items. You just go do what you want. And like, that frustrates people.
So, Guppy, what do you think about the, like, I guess the difference in terms of like gameplay of like a MOBA and something like Valorant, where it's like, you actually have a chance to do well and impact the game if you're behind in a game like Valorant, but then you play League and you just, it's not the same. Like, you can't physically fight certain champions if they're just too strong. What do you think about that?
I think, I mean, I would agree with what Keetchie said. Like, if your top laner, what's a good way to put this? Like, I think in games like League, like MOBAs, there's too many cogs that are completely out of your control. But like in a shooter, like, oh, one's holding long, one's holding short, but that doesn't mean that you can't go and help long in CS:GO terms. Like in shooters, like Keetchie said, like, even if you have a pistol, you can still kill 7 people and defuse the bomb. But in MOBA, there's so many moving parts that you have absolutely no idea or no way to control until they're already getting shoved down your throat, right? Like, there's that difference of, like, it's a weird way to put this. I haven't thought about this for a while because I used to play a lot of CS:GO and a lot of shooters. I think I don't know. Like Keetchie said, just to sum it up, for a horrible response to your question.
Oh, you're fine, man. I think it was fine. But
I think the most direct way I can answer it is it's agency. When you lose agency in League when people mess up, and that's why you get toxic. Like, when I play support, I am straight up nicer than when I play AD, because AD has the least agency in a game. For solo queue. I don't think it's the same for comp. But in solo queue, ADC has the least agency, no exception. Like, top is close for the game, but they have agency over their lane in a lot of regards. Meanwhile, ADC, very minimal agency over their lane, and very minimal agency over the game, especially depending on comps. And that's why people get toxic. Like, when I play support and I can go roam and do stuff, and like, if I'm 0-5, I can still like get a blitzcrank hook, that's a lot more fun, right? And I'm not as upset about the state of the game.
mm-hmm. Do you think that's a fixable issue, or do you think it's just the nature of the game? And like, most MOBAs will have issues like with this, where it's just, if you're behind, and it sucks.
It's the nature of the game, but I don't think that it needs to be as bad as it is right now. I don't think anyone that is like high ranked at the game could argue that top and ADC are in a reasonable spot right now. I think that'd be a very hard argument to make, in my perception. Again, solo queue. I think comp, it's actually like pretty fine across the board. That's why I love comp. The more I play comp, the less I want to play solo queue, right?
Mm-hmm. So then my next question would be, what exactly do you think needs to, like, what do you think is causing that issue? And if there is something to mitigate that feeling of, losing your agency when bad things occur, what is it, right? Because like, my first thought is like, they implemented the bounty systems and like comeback mechanics into League, like tower plates, for example. Actually, no, not tower plates, sorry. But like the bounty system, right, is a good example of how League tries to counteract that feeling of hopelessness when you're behind. But as we've also talked about, there's a lot of issues with that. So what do you think really causes a lot of that loss of agency? And if you can think of something, how do you go about fixing it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a game designer, right? So it's kind of like the situation where like, it's like, oh, I hate this food. And someone's like, okay, well, can you cook it better? I'm like, well, no, I'm not a chef, but I can still hate the food, if that makes sense, But as someone that's like pretty high rank in the game, I'd like to think I have like some intelligent decision over like the balance of it. And sure, I'd like to see like some numbers shifted or whatnot, like for different roles. But I think the core of it is like there needs to be an incentive or like some sort of solution that like increases team play. Because right now, like people in solo queue have absolutely no desire to like play as or for the team. Everyone is like the hero of solo queue. And the way that I can describe it is, and this might be some rose tinted glasses stuff, so like take it for what it is, but I feel like in earlier seasons it was a lot more about which team had like the better player or like the better coordination, and now it feels like which team has the worst player, and like that impacts the game more than the best player, if that makes sense. I think a little bit of that is like rose-colored glasses, because old League was actually pretty horrible when you go back and look at it. But that's the feeling that I have right now. Is it's not am I better than them? It's is my team or is one player like the standout worst person on the team. Speaking of which, remove autofill. Period. There. That's the solution that they can do tonight. Remove autofill from the game, and it's better. Because that's what happens, right? I have an autofilled jungle, game's lost. End of story. Autofilled ADC, game is lost. Every time the enemy picks Ezreal, I know there's like a 50% chance he's autofilled, and I win the game automatically. I don't know. I think the game needs to be more competitive and start with giving people the roles that they want to play.
Okay, for sure, man. I actually completely agree. Guppy, what do you think, man?
No, I agree. I think if you want the game, I think if you want solo queue to be more competitive, the first step is to guarantee people are playing the role that they want to play. Because if you're auto-filled, like for me, like I play bot support. If I get top lane, I know I'm losing that lane. And I know automatically, as playing a bot laner, that there's going to be potentially an enemy Aatrox that then runs down my bot lane. And it's like I'm not doing it on purpose. I simply just don't. I'm not at the level of play in this off role that I am on my main account or on my main role. Like it's just as simple as that. You're not, at least in my opinion, right? Like I might be high diamond bot support, but mid top, plat 2 baby all the way. Like there's no way I'm competing at the same level.
Also, if Challenger, or let's just say Master Plus, if that's like the apex tier of skill, right? Like you are like phenomenally good at your position to reach that rank, right? Because it's like 0.1% or whatever Master is now, 0.2, 0.1. What is the logic behind that? It takes people. There is no one that has hit Master in their first year of playing. Like it just doesn't happen. Like year 2, that's like it can happen like with the best players. But a lot of people, it's like 3-4 years to get Masters. Okay, if I spent that many years learning one role of the game, how do you expect me to be at that same skill level on a different role that I've played maybe 10% of the time, probably less? How does that make any sense? How can you argue to me that the fundamentals of top are so comparable to the ADC that I can swap roles, swap damage types, swap champ classes, right? Range to melee or whatever, and perform at effectively the same skill level. But let's say 50 to 100 LP lower, because when you get autofilled, you notice the MMR is a little bit lower. How does that make any sense? Who can defend that gameplay like stance? There are some people that can. Like Kapari, he can play mid and top, both at like a Grandmaster Challenger level. Cool, let him queue her both roles. I can't play top and AD at the same level. Why do I have to queue for that? Why am I required to give that role? And no one on my team wants it, right? No one looks up Keetchie on op.gg and says, thank God he's not bot, now we win. No, dude, you instantly lost the game. Congrats. Like, I don't know. I think it's unreasonable. It can't be defended. It shouldn't be in the game. And the queue times argument is garbage, and no rioter that has ever been high elo can defend that queue time argument. No one. There's no way. It's not possible.
Yeah. No, I would agree. And my next question to follow up on that, right, is I think it's pretty clear that the reason why getting autofilled is so like annoying is because you aren't, playing at the same level. You feel like you're being a detriment to your team. You feel like you lose a lot of agency in your game, right? So my next question is, right, if being autofilled and not being able to work for your team is so impactful, what else do you guys think can work or like be implemented to increase that kind of team coordination and team play? Because my first thought is voice chat, being able to talk to your teammates.
actually where I go to. I don't know how voice chat would work in a MOBA. I don't know if there's voice chats in MOBAs or if League implemented it, it would be the first. But like I said earlier, I came from CS:GO. Like voice chat, people always say like they're worried about it being more toxic with voice chat. Or for example, like if you're a girl, you're worried about people flaming you because you have a female voice. In my experience at least, people are way more toxic when you have that screen in front of you and you can't hear their voice. I think you're more connected to your team in voice chat, so naturally you're going to be less toxic because you can be attacked easier. I think voice chat is a good direction to go. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how it worked, but that's where I go every time.
Well, my
So I
thought
have
behind
a.
it as
Oh,
well,
go ahead.
right? Like, yeah, my thought behind it as well is like if you have the ability to talk to your teammates, now you do actually have more agency over the game.
Mm.
Like you could say like, yeah, you can ping your top laner not to do stupid shit, but it also allows your teammates to communicate and give you more information, and then you to also then take that information, process it, and make better educated decisions with it, leading to like leading to less scenarios where people are just like objectively griefing because they just aren't aware of something, right? It's easier to understand and process how much is going on in League if you can have someone tell you what they are thinking, in my opinion. Aiden, what do you think about that?
So I agree, but I'm not sure if I want voice chats in the game. And the reason for that is like, well, first I'll start with like an anecdote that supports it. So I was playing on a lower ranked account. It's like Platinum 1, and I was playing support because I want to learn a new role. And the only way you can learn a new role is on a new account because Riot's system is horrible. There's no way to learn new roles at a reasonable way. So you have to make a new account to do that. And I was doing with a friend who was playing bot lane, and we're like, learning, each other's roles and whatnot. And for some reason, I noticed our jungler was AFK, like for 2 minutes. I had no idea why. And I was like, yo, where'd our fiddlesticks go? And the mid laner, can't remember what he was playing, but the mid laner typed in, oh, he got like food delivered to his door or something, he'll be right back. Okay, it made me mad. So I'm like, dude, it's the middle of a game. Like, come on, why are you ordering food? And I don't know why I said it. It was just like a stupid response, but I just typed like something mean back at him for no reason. And it didn't like, I wasn't actually upset. It was just kind of like a stupid thing to say. Like, whatever, your friend's gone and I'm mad at you for it. Well, he took it super personally and got like really upset over it. And he added me to a Discord after the game. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And I hopped in and we talked to her voice and he was super frustrated. And over voice, in like the first 10 seconds, I said, hey, I'm not going to defend what I said. It was literally a stupid outburst that like I didn't even mean. Like, I wasn't actually upset. I was just being stupid because I didn't care. Like, I'm sorry that it sounded so personal. I understand that over text it would sound that way. I'm really sorry about that. And then he like calmed down and we talked for like 3 minutes about the game. And like immediately, by being able to talk to each other, all the actual anger was like diffused. And so I think that could work in solo queue of like by talking to each other, it's a little bit more human, or actually a lot more human, and you lose a lot of that toxicity. Like over voice, it'd be a lot harder for me to tell my support that I hate them and I want them to uninstall the game, right? Because they're a person, they're talking back to you. Like, it's weird to like directly be mean to someone like that over voice. On the contrary, though, to it, man, I don't want to hear these freaks speak in my game. I don't want these 4 animals barking at me every game I play. Like, I think that the real solution is like making flex queue a better queue. Like, that is what, in my opinion, actually would save the game. Do you remember when you could queue up with like a team? Like, it was like team queue instead? And like being challenger in team queue actually meant like you played against like the real pro teams. That was sick. I would queue up every night with a 5-stack and play like legitimate serious flex queue if the queue had any merit. That's what I would like to see fixed. That to me is more important.
So I'm curious, Keetchie, do you think the state of League would be healthier if flex queue was the more cared about rank as opposed to solo queue, and people had that drive to like had that drive to find a 5-stack to get better?
Yes and no. I think that what I'm talking about is effectively champions queue. So, it is what it is. But the other argument that I think Riot would make is they're the most played game in the world, right? Outside of like some mobile game, probably. And so with that, they have optimized their game to have like the lowest barrier of entry, right? Like literally any computer can run League. It is insane how little the game needs to run. And so by adding things like voice comms, you're making an argument that people need additional peripherals to compete at the same level. I think it's kind of a stupid argument, right? Because like anyone Master Plus probably is invested enough into gaming they can even get like a $5 microphone. So, but I know that's like an argument that Riot would make, right? Is we don't want every player to have a microphone to be able to like play the world's biggest game, right? Like we want anyone to like have their laptop and like play it on the go even. So, like, cause I know Riot's made that argument before about like keeping the game like low spec and whatnot, and like not having skins take up too much memory and things like that. So why not have like Master Plus have voice comms, or like start with something like that? You know, that I don't know why Riot doesn't do something to try it out. Like, oh hey, every single person in Challenger knows each other. Half the time in Challenger, you'll hop into each other's Discord calls during the game, right? Because like you all know each other. So why not start there and say, hey, Challenger players, or maybe, lobbies of a certain MMR, so that way it's not like some weird cutoff where like a GM player can't join the call, but he's in the same game. Why not give voice calls to those games and like see how it changes? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff Riot could try and just doesn't, and I don't really get it. It doesn't make any sense why they won't try that.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Like, it is a little insane that it's not really tested. I don't know if you guys remember Curse Voice when that was a thing, but basically, Curse Voice was a program where if other people had it installed, it would like notify you that they had it, and then you guys could enter a voice call with everyone who had it. Riot ended up removing that because it was a third-party system that was trying to, give it an unfair advantage to players who downloaded it. But when it was around and when people did it, I mean, I personally really enjoyed it. And, like, obviously not everyone is going to really like voice comms and really enjoy, like, being able to talk to their teammates. But I don't think it's something that should really, like, I think it should be tested, and it should be something that people get to have an opinion on and get to do. Because you don't have to talk, even if there are voice comms. You can stay full muted. You can disable your audio, like, for that. You can disable voice chat. In Valorant, for example, there is a literal toggle switch to disable game chat, party chat, and all chat. Why don't we have that option? And
Riot is riding the wave of a game that got successful early, and if they released it like this today, no one would play it. Like, I love the game. Like, I actually think the game itself is extremely good, and I think the balancing they do for it is a cut above almost any other game. But all the infrastructure around it, like, it is just legitimately horrible. Why do I have to have a Twitter to know what the patch notes are going to be? Why is all my info from Riot on Twitter? Like, what is that about? Like, I'm thankful for it. I'm super glad that every week I can see, like, the patch preview. But why am I going to Twitter for that? Why doesn't Riot have some sort of system where I can get all the League stuff in one place? Like, I know their client is horrible and unfixable, whatever. I don't know enough about their backend to, like, speak intelligently about that, so let's assume the client is unfixable. All the other stuff makes no sense. Why is half the stuff about League on Twitter or Reddit to know when it's going to come out? Like, it's posted to there by Riot. Like, why is the support for their pro leagues legitimately, like, horrible, right? Like, they removed co-streaming because they didn't like their numbers going down, even though co-streaming's, like, the only good way to watch it for half the people. Like, have you ever listened to the analyst desk half the time? It's horrible. Like, no one wants that content in between games. Or maybe I'm speaking too generally. Maybe some people do. When I watch it, I could not care about literally half of the content they're putting out because it's just, like, completely worthless. And then even, like, general things like merch. How does the biggest game in the world with 160 unique characters have almost no merch? Does that make any sense to you? The only merch available is some horrible t-shirts. Like, go look them up. They are legitimately the worst designs you've ever seen, outside of, like, a few good ones. Or a $180 billion statue that's 6 inches tall. What is that? Like, I don't get how they're not doing more with the biggest game of all time. Like, try something. Do something new. What is going on? Like, am I too pessimistic about this, or am I just like, I don't get it. It feels like there's so much more they could do and just aren't for literally no reason.
What do you think, Guppy?
Well, one thing I was gonna add that I forgot about until we talked about this is League literally has voice chat. Like,
Oh, yeah.
why not just have that enabled for solo queue? Because you can, like you said, like you can do in Valorant, in League, you can enable it and disable it, and you don't have to hear them. You can go into the game with it disabled. Why not just turn that on for solo queue and see what happens? The other
By the way-
thing,
Oh,
what?
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can go.
I say on your voice chat, like a year and a half ago, someone said, "Hey, can we try that opt-in thing in FlexQ?" It was like a test, and a rioter replied, "Oh my god, that's an amazing idea." Never heard about it again. Like Guppy said, it's literally already in the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree with you guys. It just feels like Riot in general is just kind of dropping the ball in terms of what needs to be implemented to make the game more current with the times. I mean, I literally can't think of a competitive game that doesn't have voice comms. Like a multiplayer team-based competitive game without voice comms. I can't think of a single one. Every single one of them has it, and League is just lacking behind. And some people are going to be opposed to it, and I think there's some genuinely legit arguments for why it shouldn't be in the game. But at the same time, it just feels like it can at least be tried out, and it doesn't feel like Riot cares enough to do it. I don't know. It's hard to say, but
I mean, Guppy, you have some experience, like I do, like playing on a competitive fives team. Does it even feel like the same game, like solo queue or like comp? Does it even like feel like you're playing the same game half the time? For me, it feels like it's completely different.
Oh, absolutely. And like I talk, like I'll talk when I'm helping out the B team and C team, like form a team, and I'll talk about it because they've only ever played solo queue. It's literally a different game. I mean, you talk about like, oh, why do they do these balance changes that only affect pro play? Well, because it's a different game. Like why it's different in every single way. And like you said earlier, like support in solo queue versus pro play, or support in solo queue versus even collegiate. Like it's not even the same role.
Yeah, it literally is not the same role. Like, I mean this with 100% legitimacy. There are challenger support players that would get dumpstered by master, even diamond, collegiate pro or collegiate support players. When like, I've seen it happen. I played against a challenge. I'll keep him anonymous out of respect for him, but we scrimmed a team recently. Their support is a relatively well-known name in Challenger, has been for many seasons, just like the worst player alive in comp. Because like he doesn't play comp in the way that comp should be played. He's a solo queue player. It is like, I don't know. It's weird how much the game changes, and I think that voice comms could bridge that gap a lot, or at least something like something. Let's start with getting the role that you queued up for. Let's start with that, and then we can move from there.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty good place to begin, right? Like, just I don't know. It's frustrating, and there's a lot of things in League that I feel like at least are solvable issues that just haven't been addressed for years. My next question then, right? What do you want, like, what type of next steps would you like to see Riot really do in order to make an impact? Like, if a Rioter was watching this video, what would you want to ask him and be like, hey, can we start seeing more of this from you guys?
I want the high elo atmosphere and culture to be fundamentally addressed and changed and helped. Because high elo dictates how the rest of the game gets played. Because every silver, gold, bronze, new player watches Twitch to see their favorite player play the game that they're learning, to learn from them, to see what happens. And when they see high elo be a disaster, where is their incentive to act any differently in gold or silver or bronze or iron or wherever they're at? Like, if my favorite player is a psychopath that types, why should I be any different? Or where's my desire to reach high elo when this person in Challenger is getting literally like pike smited? Like, I don't know. I think solve high elo first, and it would actually have a remarkable ripple effect on the rest of the game. That's my perspective.
Do you think that's the case, Guppy?
I definitely agree to some extent. For me personally, I mean, we talked about this a lot already, but for me personally, I think the biggest ripple would be solving chat. And I think a lot of like newer players, like I feel like in Diamond and Masters, you just expect it, right? You expect one loose cannon on your team to flame the shit out of everyone. And it goes into, okay, how do we either play with this dude so he doesn't mental boom, or like how do we play without this dude and keep successing? Like I was teaching a friend how to play the other day. Brand new player, had never played, and he was getting flamed. Like you want to talk about making the community healthier and all these other problems. Like a level 3 dude is getting flamed for not knowing how to play the game. He shouldn't know how to play the game. I think I think the atmosphere of the game as a whole would just be so much better if they would figure out how to make chat a little bit better without just fucking removing it. Like who thought that was a good idea? Like chat's amazing. If you're toxic or not toxic, who thought, hey, this game that is 5 random people versus 5 random people, they can't talk to each other. That shit's not allowed. Let's remove it. Like what? It's never made any sense to me. And I think the toxicity ties into so much. I think it ties into, like Keetchie said, streamers like Tyler One. Like holy shit! Every once in a while, I watch Tyler One, and I was like, that's bad right there. Like if he was somebody else, chances are that account would be perma banned. I mean, I don't know. I think the atmosphere of Twitch, I think they fuel into each other. Of the game's toxic, so Twitch streamers are toxic, and then that invites more people into the game that are toxic, and then the toxicity gets more views. Like Tyler One's the most watched streamer for a reason. He's fun to watch, but because other people are getting flamed, right? But it's not you getting flamed.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And you know what? It is a vicious cycle that just feeds into itself. But at the end of the day, we have what we have. We can't really do anything other than, talk about it on shows like this and really get our own thoughts and feelings about the whole situation out there. Maybe a rioter watches something like this and they go, like I can understand where that frustration comes from, but probably not, right?
No, they have too many internal metrics that mean nothing that they have to follow.
Exactly, right? And I would bet money that there's people out there in Riot who share very legitimate, very similar opinions to what people, like everyday people like us who play the game at a higher level want, right?
Dude, playing the game as a rioter must suck. Like you probably get so much like hate from people. Like there's a few rioters that are like relatively well known in like GM Challenger. Dude, you just know that they get the worst stuff typed to them, right? Like,
Yeah. And it's not like any individual rioter has an impact over it, right? But if the community as a whole comes together and wants something done, Riot actually does and can listen. We've seen it before. They will go back and revert certain changes or go back on things they said. And honestly, it's something I really like about Riot is I feel like they actually do listen to their player base pretty well.
yeah, their gameplay is like near 10 out of 10. Like their gameplay is incredibly good. Like the champion designs, the champion themes, all that stuff is like 10 out of 10. It's literally just like the stuff that supports the game that is legitimately horrible. Well, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not the point of this podcast right now. Smurf Q needs to be removed from the game immediately. It is... Well, no, that's not true. Smurf Q's fine. The way it's implemented is beyond horrible. There's a difference between Smurfs and an account that hasn't been placed yet. My account that was GM last season, I didn't play on it for the first 2 weeks of ranked because I didn't want to. It's early ranked. I'd rather like get a feel for the new season. So I played on it on the second week, and it says, oh, this guy is Grandmaster MMR, but he has no rank. he must be a Smurf, and I'm now an inescapable Smurf queue where every single game you get all the other toxic freaks that have been banned, or level 30 accounts that are pro accounts given by Riot, and it's like an unenjoyable, horrible, horrible queue, but they just don't care. Like, it happens to new players too. Fresh level 30s play ranked for the first time, enemy team is Zhao Hudong Bands, level 30 Challenger MMR, 50 zeros them. What? Like, I don't know. That is such a fundamental issue that I can't believe Riot, like, doesn't address. Because it happens to every new player. Like, I don't know. It really bothers me.
Guppy, I think I'm going to ask you one last time if there's anything that you kind of want to say about that, and I think I'm going to start wrapping up the podcast here.
I mean, I think, like I said, like when I was teaching that new dude how to play, I don't understand why people just assume that people should already know how to play the game. Like I think this ties back into shit talking rioters and just all that. Like people love to hate on the game and talk shit about the game. And like Keetchie said, the game is amazing. I mean, we play this game for a reason. But there's just like Riot, it just goes about it so weirdly. Like removing the Hextech Drake because it was 80% the most hated Drake. Fantastic, amazing. Removing what's it called? Removing clubs because you didn't know how to fix your spaghetti code. What the fuck? You're a multi-billion-dollar company, dog. I'm sure you have a coder who can figure that shit out. Or like I'm teaching a friend how to play and he's level 3 and he's getting flamed because people assume it's a Smurf account. That's high diamond. Like no, he's just a dude who's coming from Terraria trying to play the fucking game. Like it's so weird. The things that Riot wants to fix don't necessarily tie up with what needs to be fixed, but it's just such a weird cycle.
I completely agree. And you know what? I think that's a great place to end the episode off on. Guys, Guppy, Keetchie, thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode. I think we had a really good conversation. I'm really excited to get this out there and see what other people think. So thank you guys again for coming on, and I hope to see you guys again in the future. Thanks to anyone who watched, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.